I was making $23 an hour. You want to get all up in my business, huh? I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about public accounting. A lot of people have mixed feelings in regards to the salary, etc. So I am here to open up with you guys and share from my personal experience how much I made, if I think it was worth it, etc. So before we get into this video, if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my channel and join this growing family. Let's get to 3,000 subscribers, guys, okay? And don't forget to like this video by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts so that I can know that you guys are enjoying these kind of videos. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So if you are looking into getting into accounting, I know a lot of you guys are going to be starting internships. I know a lot of you guys had just ended internships. Some of you guys are going straight into full-time and some of you don't know. So I am here to be kind of like your go-to person and just really tell you guys, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about my very first internship. So my first internship was, they call it winter internships or spring internships, depending on how you want to look at it, but it's busy season. So from January through April, I was an intern. And during that time I was interning for a mid-tier accounting firm, and I was making $23 an hour, which averaged to about, I think it was 53 actually. I don't remember the exact terms, but it was somewhere between the $52,000 a year range to $54,000 a year. And this was back in 2016, so of course times have changed. I'm not sure how much the salary has changed since then, but in 2016, which was 4 years ago, that is how much I made as an intern. And at that time, that was how much staff were making. So first year associates, that's how much they were making. So you guys might be wondering, Nicole, why are you saying an hour? I thought people make salary. Yes, we make salary. However, when you are an intern, or if you're a contractor, because this will also apply to you, even though you might be presented with a salary-based offer, because you're an intern, it will be broken down into hourly terms, and that is because you are going to be having the potential to make overtime, which I'll get to in just a little bit. So as an intern, you are going to be making the same salary as first year associates. However, depending on how much overtime you do, you will most likely be making what seniors or even managers make. So a lot of people make fun of the interns and are always like, you're making the big bucks, and sometimes the interns don't realize it, but you really are. So because I was working during busy season, I did have opportunities to go over my 40-hour work week. So I was working around 50, 60-hour weeks, but that was pretty rare. But those 10-hour extra a week really did help out, because there's something called time and a half that you make. So any hours you work after 40 hours is time and a half. So it's literally the amount of pay that you make in a half. I was definitely able to bank in a good amount of change as a 21-year-old doing my internship in the DC area. Let's get into how much I made during my summer internship. This was in Houston, Texas, back in 2016. My salary offer was $55,500. So $55,500 is what my offer salary was, and I think that's probably what everybody else got around that time. I'm really not sure. Usually it's harder to negotiate salary when going into entry-level public accounting, and as an intern it's usually harder for you to negotiate your salary because they have set industry rates and set salaries that they usually start everybody off with. So I'm really not sure if there was a pay or a pay gap or anything. And so $55,500 was the salary that I was offered as an intern, and on top of that, we did get a sign-on bonus during our internship. So if you were going to be CPA eligible by the time you graduated from college, you did get a either $2,000 or $2,500, I'm not sure, of a bonus that came with one of your first paychecks during your internship. If it wasn't the first paycheck, it was definitely the second paycheck, because there was one of the paychecks like in the beginning of my internship that I got that I didn't even know what to do with myself. As a 21-year-old, I moved from Pennsylvania to Houston for this internship, and I had all this cash, y'all. I did not know what to do with myself, okay? All right, guys, so at this internship, I was making around $28 an hour, and then of course with my overtime, that was time and a half, so that was a little bit more. So during my summer internship, I did not get as much overtime. However, the salary was still really good and I couldn't complain, okay? So guys, some of the expenses. So during my first internship in the DC area, I was fortunate enough to live with a family friend, so I did not have to pay rent. However, I was paying for my transportation to and from work. So most days I did not take my car with me. And actually, I did not bring my car down with me until the second half of my internship, just because in the DC area you are paying for parking pretty much everywhere you go, and the people that I was living with, where they lived, there was no parking unless I was going to be paying like $500 a month for parking, which I didn't want to. So I pretty much commuted using public transportation. So they lived really close to a train station, so I would just take the metro every morning to and from work. So I was able to take the metro into the office, and I was also able to take the metro into the client site. And a good part of the client that I was working for was actually in the McLean, Virginia area, so it wasn't bad. So I was commuting from Silver Spring, Maryland to McLean, Virginia when I was going on a client via the train. So that was a little bit exhausting, and I don't remember exactly how much I was paying at the time, but I did have to pay my train, my weekly train pass. And then I did end up bringing my car later on down the line, and for that, anytime I would drive my car to the office, at that point I did have to pay for parking. And then I think one of the clients that we were on, which is why I brought my car down, they did let us reimburse our parking expenses, which was very helpful. So the other expenses that I had, of course, was food, helping out with the family that I lived with, just helping out with food, and if I wanted to buy food for myself, any of my lunches in case we ate out, those kind of expenses. And then I also had to allocate some funds for buying clothes, like buying my work clothes, my professional clothes, things like that, and then like some maintenance expenses with doing my nails. So as a professional, you always need to look groomed and well, so I would get my nails done about not really every other week, maybe maybe every other week, twice a month. So in terms of like getting a fill or anything like that, if you're a lady, you know what I'm talking about. And then I would also go home. I would go back to Philly if I wanted to visit my family, my friends, if there was something going on. So paying for either the train or the bus to go to Philly, I also paid for that. And then when I brought my car down, of course, paying my car insurance and my car insurance and gas, because at the time I didn't have a car note. It was the car that I used during college was like very beat up. And this internship that I did in DC, I saved a whole lot of money, and that was the money that I used towards the down payment on my car. So I used a good chunk of that money to pay to use towards the down payment of my new car, because I knew that I was going to need a new car because I was going to be moving to Texas. And I knew I was either going to be moving to Texas or to DC, and I wanted to have a very good, reliable car. And then, so I was just putting money aside and making sure I really didn't use any money like that. So I was able to save a good chunk, and that money also carried me over through when I moved to Houston. A good amount of the money that I saved, I was able to use it towards my rent in my apartment in Houston and some other moving expenses, which I'll get into. So in Houston, my expenses were my apartment, so paying rent for my apartment, which was around $900, just because of where I was living. And I had signed a short-term lease, so that was around $900 a month. At the time, I did purchase a new vehicle, so I did have a car note at that point. So paying my car note, and also my car insurance, which was super high at the time because I had purchased a brand new used vehicle. So of course, any expenses that comes with an apartment, like your utilities, and then also of course my groceries and my gas for my car. So I knew in Houston, and I already had known that I was going to Houston and I would need a reliable car. The car that I had previously wasn't gonna cut it for me, and it was either living close to work, but when it came towards to going to my clients, I would have to rent a car, or it was just buying a new car and driving myself down to Houston, which ultimately I did. So FYI, within public accounting, make sure you have a car or you're able to rent a car every week in case you need to go out to clients. Of course, now with the virtual thing, I don't know, but this is just my experience. So those were my expenses. And then my gas, the most expense was definitely my gas, because I was going from one side of Houston to the other. So going from one side of Houston to downtown Houston almost every day. That was a little over an hour commute just because of traffic, and it's Houston. So that really, like, putting gas in my car, I was putting gas on a weekly basis. But I have a Toyota Camry, so they're pretty good on gas, so definitely efficient, which is why I purchased a Toyota instead of like a brand new Mercedes or something, which I'll talk about that when I make my I paid off my car video. Those were the expenses that I had, and of course any food, any meal expenses, if I wanted to eat lunch with a friend and I didn't take lunch that day, if I wanted to do any shopping, get some clothes, like work clothes, things like that, any outings that I wanted to do with people, my money went towards that. But a good chunk of my internship money from my summer internship, and that had even carried over from my spring internship, I saved that because I had saved that planning for when I would go back to college. I knew I calculated the amount of time that I would have between graduating, that I would have between the time I went back to school up until the time I would have started my job. Up until the time I thought I was supposed to be starting my job, I had calculated that. So I saved as much as I could for that, so that way I had enough money to pay my car note every month and also pay for my car insurance. And I had a job on campus that I was going back to, but that job is what helped me pay for rent and for food. So yeah, so that's where a good chunk of my money went. So yeah, that is how I ended up budgeting or allocating my funds of what I made during my internship. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, I am doing a finance series on my Instagram. Let me know if you guys want me to do it on YouTube as well, and I'll be able to do it. And I will see you guys in my next one. Let me see. $1 a week, 4 times 12. No, I was making more than that. No. How much was I making? No.